Spring practice is almost here, and it's time to figure out if Auburn has the best wide receiver room in the conference. Welcome on into the Auburn Express, powered by the Rapport. I'm your host, Mike G, and thank you so much for giving us a listen today. Joining me today, as he always does, is my good friend Chris Phillips from SCC Unfiltered. Chris, spring practice is coming extremely late for Auburn. As it stands, it is March the 10th, and spring practice does not start until March 25th. It ends on April 12th. What the hell, man? I don't know if I like this condensed spring practice schedule, but it's what we got. Everybody's going to be watching the passing game here for Auburn this spring, which means watching Cam Coleman and Perry Thompson and Eric Singleton. What do you think about this Auburn wide receiver room this spring? I think they might have one of the best wide receiver rooms in the country.
Yeah, Mike, I think that's a fair statement. To your point, by the way, about spring ball, it's an exciting time to be a sports fan, isn't it? With college baseball, March Madness, spring football, spring games will be here before you know it. But, yeah, Hugh Freeze and company being really efficient, starting that late and ending just second week of April. But, no, to the receiver room, man, again, I think it is one of the best in the country, not just in the SEC. Looking at the SEC specifically, I think the friends over down in Tuscaloosa have got a pretty good argument as well, a young, really talented young receiver and a Ryan Williams, who it's going to be fun to watch them battle each other again, Williams against Coleman. But, yeah, I mean, I think you and I both agree when it comes to Auburn, zeroing in on them, Mike, I think the passing game is going to be a really key component if they're going to have offensive success, right? I mean, you've got the new trigger man in Jackson Arnold, and you got some talented pieces at running back. That'll be one of the key position battles, if you will. But I think if you look like what should be the strength of the offense, I think it is the passing game with those pass catchers you've got on the outside. And, again, you got a young star like a Cam Coleman. You mentioned Singleton, who you had in the portal, man. The work they did there, it should be one of the most potent passing attacks in the conference because, again, when you got guys like that on the outside, it's a threat to hit a home run every single play.
Yeah, look, they also added Horatio Fields from Wake Forest as well, too, to that wide receiver room. We'll be looking to see if Perry Thompson steps up, former top 30 overall player in that Freeze 4 recruiting class, as well as Bryce Kane. Now, we know Malcolm Simmons and Cam Coleman got a lot of time, but you mentioned that school on the other side of the state, Chris, and they've got the youngest 17-year-old to ever turn 18 in Ryan Williams. But they're going to be, I think, like, the talent is so good in that wide receiver room that the pressure's really going to be on Freeze to produce a 3,000-yard passer in year 3 of this thing, man. Look, Auburn missed a bowl game last year. For all intents and purposes, this thing is moving backwards in terms of results on the field. I think you have to have a 3,000-yard passer this season if you're Hugh Freeze. Look, passing has to be better than what it has been at Auburn. You've just not been able to produce in the passing game. Now, it did move forward statistically last year under Peyton Thorne. 2,700 yards passing, I believe, he had, which was better than the 1,700 yards he had the first year. But it's got to be better than that in today's college football. You've got to have some 1,000-yard receivers, some 800-yard receivers in there. And I think Cam Coleman has to be a top 3 receiver in this conference this year by any means necessary.
Well, Mike, you make the point, too. You mentioned that the results on the field aren't following the positive trajectory that I think most Auburn fans and even those that aren't Auburn fans that look at this program feel it should be following. And I think the reason is the talent is getting better, right? And I think even the offensive talent, maybe you lose Jarquez Hunter, but you've upgraded at quarterback. I mean, I think we all feel that way. So to your point, we've mentioned it many times, Mike, there really is no excuse, right? When it comes to it's going to be on one guy if it doesn't click. Are we saying Jackson Arnold's the perfect quarterback and he's without flaw? That's not what we're saying, but we've also seen that 5-star talent potential shine. We've seen what he can do. I don't hold last year really, Mike, against Jackson Arnold because it was a complete mess there in Norman, and his offensive coordinator gets fired. There were injuries all around him. I don't think that was a great reflection of what he actually is and what he can be. It is up to Hugh Freeze to get that out of him. And again, you have the weapons. Like you identify, you've got guys that can make big plays and explosive plays and are all conference type of players. So it's up to Hugh Freeze, that coaching staff, to put the guys in the best possible position, get the most out of them. You got the talent there. You're going to have to find some balance, no doubt. But, we see football, the running back position, as great as it is to have a Jarquez Hunter, the running back position isn't what it used to be. You do have to be able to throw the football, Mike, at a high level. To win at a high level, they've got those pieces. I agree with you. I think at minimum 3,000 yards, that's got to be kind of the threshold. You don't hit 3,000 yards with this group of receivers, you did something wrong, in my opinion.
Yeah, look, if you're Jackson Arnold, mid-60s in terms of completion percentage, right, is about what's getting it done these days. You prefer to see high 60s. I think you're competing for conference titles at that number. That's just me. But look,
take care of the football. That's the other thing. Take care of the football. That's the big number.
Yeah, I agree as well, too. So with this receiver room, Hugh Freeze said this when he came to Auburn. He said, you need guys with catch radius in this league. And he believed that the way to an effective passing game is to go out and get big-time pass catchers. So they put the emphasis on finding the Cam Colemans. Now, obviously, he was committed to Texas A&M. Jimbo Fisher got fired. He ended up at Auburn. Perry Thompson flipped from Alabama to Auburn. And then Bryce King and Malcolm Simmons made the decision to be Auburn Tigers. These guys have to produce. If Jackson Arnold doesn't produce, I don't think it's going to be about the receivers. I think it's going to be about the system.
I would agree, Mike. And maybe there is a world where Jackson Arnold just isn't as good as we think. But again, I go back on that because he has the talent. Like, the guy has the raw ability, obviously the decision-making. But again, if you know that maybe he's a bit of a loose cannon, that's the thing that I think his one knock. He maybe trusts his arm at times a little bit too much. He can be a little bit wild. It's up to Hugh Freeze and company to corral that. Like, if you're supposed to be this quarterback whisperer, this quarterback guru, like, you should be able to corral a guy like that. Again, put him in positions to not make those big mistakes. So I agree with you, Mike. It feels like if it doesn't work, you can try to point the finger at other things, but at some point you are what you are, and I think it will be the system's fault.
Yeah, agreed. Look, at the end of the day, you've got the best wide receiver room, I think, in the conference. But where will Jackson Arnold rank in terms of quarterbacks? We'll talk about that right after a quick word from our friends at Golden's Cast Iron. Visit goldenscastiron.com/WR and use code Get Your Weight Up for 15% off your weights and code TWR for $65 off fire pits and Kamado grills. Spring is here. You want to be outside grilling with our friends at Golden's Cast Iron. I've got the Kamado grill. Our guy B-Will has the fire pit. Everybody has the weights because we got to get those summer bods popping. Golden's Cast Iron is here to help us with that. And after you're done with all that, if you want to relax, our friends at the Rogue Shop got you covered. Visit rogueshop.com and use code Rapport to get 15% off your Rogue Shop order. Pain, sleep, stress, anxiety, whatever ails you in life, the Rogue Shop has something that has you covered. Longtime sponsors of the show. We appreciate them for sponsoring this segment. And last but certainly not least, our friends at the Vibe Vault. If you're in the Columbus, Phoenix City, Auburn area, and you're looking for a great haircut, the Vibe Vault is your place. You can find them at 3462 Crosswinds Road, Sweet I in Phoenix City, Alabama. That's off of 431, Highway 431, right across from Chattahoochee Valley Community College. That's where I get my fade done, Chris. My guy, Steven Watkins, over there, serving up something nice. The relationship between you and your barber is a sacred one. And I can tell you, I will not let anybody cut my hair but Steve at the Vibe Vault. Please go visit them. Brand new sponsors of the War Report. We appreciate them for sponsoring the segment. Look, quarterback is important, and quarterback has fallen short at Auburn. You brought in Jackson Arnold. There was a lot of speculation about who they would bring in from the portal in this thing. They landed on former 5-star Jackson Arnold coming in from Oklahoma. Now, he had a disappointing year over there, but their offense was disappointing in general. He decides to come to Auburn. I was privy to a conversation that he had with Peyton Thorne asking if he could win here at Auburn. And, Peyton gave him a good recommendation, and bam, here we are. Jackson Arnold is an Auburn Tiger. Where does he finish, do you think, this year in terms of passers in the conference? I think for Auburn to be successful, he's got to be a top 4 passer in the league. I'm not sure. I'm not sure where he lands, but I think top 4 should be the goal if you're Hugh Freeze.
I think he could finish top 6, Mike, and I think that'd be. I do think there's a lot of good quarterbacks in this conference.
Which 5 are better? Which 5 are better than
Well,
Jackson Arnold?
I'm saying you because you said he needs to finish top 4 to have a successful year.
Yep.
I think he could finish top 6 and still have a successful year.
All
the
right.
names that come off the top of my head of the 5, if there were 5 ahead, Garrett Nussmeier, DJ Lagway, Lenora Sellers,
Is Quinn
Nico
Ewers back?
Iamale. No. Arch Manning. So Arch Manning
Manning,
at Texas. Then you go into the likes of Nico Iamaleava.
Okay.
What is Gunnar Stockton going to be? Is it Ty Simpson? Is it Keelan Russell? From what I've heard, it's probably not going to be Austin Mack. Who is it? You wouldn't think that certainly if it's a freshman at Alabama, he's not going to be better than Jackson Arnold. Is it a John Mateer at Oklahoma? They're excited. What about Diego Pavia? There's a lot of really capable signal callers. I was making the point simply that I don't think he's got to be like the second or third best quarterback in the conference for Auburn to have the type of season they want to have. I think if he's a top 6 in the league, I think he was pretty damn good because there's a lot of good signal callers. And going in the season, Mike, it's interesting. I think I'm probably going to have Jackson Arnold probably in the 8 to 10 range, admittedly, or like middle of the package. I don't know exactly where, but it's kind of just we don't know. Like, to your point, last year I don't put that on him. It wasn't his fault. Oklahoma was a complete mess. I'll tell you what I do love, Mike, the fact that you mentioned that conversation he had with Peyton Thorne. The guy wants to win. Like, I'm sure NIL played something. It plays a role for everybody, but he wants to win. Like, he wasn't going to come if he felt like he could not win. The guy is a competitor. You watch him. He's a warrior on the field. For all the other things, maybe you can nitpick that. And he's got to do a better job at some things, taking care of the football for sure. But the guy is an all-out warrior and is going to give everything he's got for his team. And I love the fact that, again, having that type of conversation with Peyton Thorne, like, man, I want to win. Like, can you win here? That's my question. My goal is to win. So that to me is a real positive. But I mean, I think he can be a top 5, top 6 quarterback in the league. And I think that will be good enough for Auburn to win. Let's just say 8+ games, which I think is the expectation and obviously the goal of everybody around there.
Yeah, I agree. Look, can you win at Auburn? I think that last year you saw that they were close. The tools were there.
You absolutely can win at Auburn, by the way. That's a given. You can win big at Auburn. We've seen it literally happen. So
yeah. If you're Jackson Arnold, I think you think that you're going to be the difference, honestly. And I think that you have to.
I mean, you better be the difference, right?
Yeah.
I mean, darn, bro. I mean, that's why you came there. You got to be the dude.
Again, I like what you said. I think top 6 in the conference will get it done. But I want to close this segment with more of a fun question. Who's the best quarterback in this conference today? Chris Phillips, SEC
today.
Unfiltered.
That's a great that I'm glad you included today, because today, right now, I'm going to say Garrett Nussmeier. That's who
Nussmeier, really?
That's who I'm going to have number 1 more than I would say pretty much 100%, right? Like, we'll do I'll drop my whole like quarterback rankings going into SEC media days, and that'll be kind of going into the 2025 season because I don't think fall camp's going to change much of anything. So, I mean, dude, Garrett Nussmeier to me is number 1. I feel a little icky about it because I've seen him play so poorly. I mean, I've seen him throw the game away, essentially. I think at number 2, you're probably looking at like a Lenora Sellers, DJ Lagway conversation, but I just think right now, I feel confident. Putting Garrett Nussmeier at number 1. I think the upside for Nussmeier, I mean, I was at that Ole Miss game last year. That throw he made to Aaron Anderson down the middle of the field, man, there are a few in college football that can make that throw, really threading the needle like he did. So I'm going to go Nussmeier right now, but man, it is his ceiling may be higher than anybody else in the conference, Mike, but God, his floor is scary at times. Here's the thing, he threw 12 picks last year. If he can cut that number in half, Garrett Nussmeier can be in New York. He can compete for the Heisman Trophy. Like, dude, you talk about receiver rooms, by the way. What LSU went out and did, they got some dudes now. That offense should be really good. So I'm just saying, Garrett Nussmeier's got those tools. I'll put him at 1 right now. Will he finish at 1? that's yet to be determined. I really don't know. It's his consistency is going to determine that in my mind.
Best quarterback in the SEC should definitely be in New York for the Heisman ceremony at the end of the season.
Who would you go with? Right? Who would you go with?
Yeah, it's a tough one for me.
Sellers is an intriguing. Him or Lagway are intriguing.
Yeah, sure. I don't want to count out Arch Manning.
But not best today, though.
Today,
today.
But you make a good point about Lenora Sellers, and I don't know if anybody climbed the QB rankings more than Lenora Sellers.
Nobody
last
did.
season. And I think that all the noise we heard around people just throwing money at him left and right, legitimately tampering, Chris, to try to get Lenora Sellers out of South Carolina and into their program. Yeah, look, you got to love the development that they saw there. Talk to people around that program. They believe that he's the guy to get them over the hump. And certainly, I don't know if there was a hotter team at the end of the season last year than South Carolina.
My biggest question, Mike, with Sellers is going to be this. They looked like, and it's a bowl game, but they looked like a different team without Rocket Sanders when Lenora Sellers did not have that bell cow back. And he had that last year. He had the running game. Like, the running game was very good. Sellers does things nobody else in the league can do. But I think what impressed me about Nussmeier, like, he put up the numbers he did. He had no running game. None. And he just put the team on his back, made those throws, took them down the field. Again, when he was bad, it was really bad, but he was good most of the time. And I do think, Mike, you correct me if I'm wrong, I think Sellers, if he had a better team around him, like if we felt like he had a better team, I probably would be privy to rank him number one. I just don't know that he's going to have the squad around him to really flourish to his full potential. Now, DJ Lagway might. That's the thing. DJ Lagway might. I love Lagway's game. Love Sellers too, but I love Lagway's game when he's got Florida's a sleeper now. Florida's a sleeper this fall.
Yeah, and that Florida schedule is a little bit more forgiving than last year's hardest schedule ever assembled ever in the history of college football. But, hey, I think it's going to be a lot of fun watching the football in 2025. I know SEC Unfiltered will be there for every second of it. Chris, before we get out of here, man, tell people where they can find you.
Yeah, Mike, always a pleasure, man. I appreciate you having me. We're at SEC Unfiltered, X, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, wherever you get your content, YouTube, podcast every single day, and our website, secunfiltered.com.
Guys, that's it for another great edition of the Auburn Express, powered by the War Rapport. If you want more content like this, please hit like and subscribe. We are the War Rapport on every social media platform, TW Rapport on TikTok. Signing off, and as always, War Eagle.